I have made millions studying Peter Lynch. If you apply these principles, you will be rich in the future. There's no question in my mind. There are words that are just like nails on chalkboard for me. Play the market, trading, I don't even like the word stocks. Simple businesses are awesome because we can understand them, you do a little bit of homework, and then you can make a lot of money doing this.
It's incredible how boring businesses can just scale, right? With the right person in charge and the right kind of mix of things, a boring small business can go from something tiny to something huge.
From flankinvesting.com, this is Money Grooves, the show for intelligent investors. I'm David. I've read every book that Peter Lynch has ever written, and I've been an investor for over 10 years.
I'm Elliot, and who the hell is Peter Lynch?
Peter Lynch is one of the greatest investors of all time. He's earned $14 million into $18 billion over a 13-year period. That's a 29% annual return, which is crazy.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'll just take the 14.
Yeah.
But as investors, I know that I should be chasing the 80.
Right. Yeah. And one of the things I love about Peter Lynch is that he's been saying the same thing. He's been giving the same investment advice for decades. Unlike the jokers on CNBC who change their investing advice every month.
Right. So reactionary.
Yeah. And earlier this month, Peter Lynch popped back onto the scene when he gave his first interview that he's given in years. And there are so many lessons that you can get from it, but we're going to pull out the 6 key most important ones. So stay tuned. Make sure you watch this video because I've personally made millions studying Peter Lynch, and I believe you can too. Buffett once said that he's 60% Ben Graham, 40% Phil Fisher. I would consider myself 60% Buffett, 40% Lynch.
Okay, great. Well, you've piqued my interest. Let's hear it.
Let's go. All right, let's kick off the first clip with what Peter Lynch calls the most important thing in investing.
The real key to making money in stocks is not to get scared out of them. Why is that the key to making money in stocks?
Well, more important to that is I have this expression, know what you own.
I was going to do that one later. I'll cross it off.
But that's it. That's the most important lesson.
Okay.
Because you'll get shaken out if the stock goes from 10 to 8. You don't know what they're doing. What are you going to do with it? And
so Peter Lynch right there said the most important thing is knowing what you own. That's kind of seminal to Lynch-style investing.
Mm-hmm.
And what he means by that is if you own Chipotle, you need to understand that you own a company that makes burritos.
Right.
And that sounds simple, but if you are talking about a company that makes, GPUs, like, do you really know what a GPU is?
Right.
A lot of people don't, and they still will buy NVIDIA. But to let him keep cooking, the next story that he tells that we interrupted is about Barbara Streisand. Let's go.
Okay, great.
my secretary, Paul Self, says, Barbara Streisand's called 3 times. She'd really like to talk to you. And she's very nice, and I said, sure, I got some time this afternoon. So I called her, she says, I own all these stocks, and I'm getting up at 5 a.m. and looking at this stuff. And she said, I never did drugs, I never did marijuana. I just can't sleep. What do? I says, tell me 5 things you own. She named 5 companies. I say, okay, what did they do? She didn't have any idea. She's an incredibly talented person. She had no idea what those companies did.
Right.
So what are you going to do if they go down 50%?
Yeah.
If you don't understand what you own, you're toast.
And that's exactly what we said when we interrupted him. If you don't understand what your companies do, what you own, then of course when it starts to drop, you're going to get scared.
Right. Yeah, like what are you investing in? And I think that that's a really salient point for people who, especially those that are new to investing, because, it's kind of a natural instinct to see something you own start to go down in value and go, oh my God, then panic, right? Yeah. It's good to hear that, that's not the right thing to do. And I think that as we've learned about Buffett-style investing and now this interview with Peter Lynch, holding on to things is the much more common and correct thing to do rather than jumping ship when something goes down.
You can sell your stocks.
Right.
It's just know what you own, know the value of it. Because if I think Chipotle is worth, $100 billion, then if it drops to $50 billion, I'm going to buy more because I think that it's worth $100 billion.
Yeah.
And
if I think it's worth
$100 billion and it's trading at $200 billion, I'm going to sell it because I think it's. So you just got to know what you own.
Sure.
But the problem is that to know what you own, you have to do a little bit of research.
Right.
And that's what he talks about in this next clip.
You talk about people spend more time researching a refrigerator they're going to buy than they do a stock they're going to invest part of their life savings.
People are very careful. They spend hours, get $50 off on an airplane flight. They look at everything.
Right.
And they'll put $10,000 in some crazy stock they heard on the bus. And, you know, and they have no idea what they're doing. And somebody invented this awful term before I got in the business called play the market.
Play the market. You don't like that term.
That is sometimes a noun, there it's a verb. It's a very dangerous verb.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah,
Play the
agreed.
market. There are words that are just like nails on chalkboard for me. Play the market, trading. I don't even like the word stocks, honestly. I really don't. I like the word business. I buy businesses. I study businesses and I buy businesses. It just so happens that the businesses I buy in the public markets are securitized, and so I can buy them as stock.
Yeah.
You know. So he said that you need to know what you own. He said that you have to do a little bit of research, right? The third thing this next clip he says is, what do you do with that research? And it's a really fascinating, easy way of writing, of explaining it.
Okay.
If you don't understand what they do, if you can't explain to an 11-year-old in a minute or less why you own it, not this sucker's going up. I've heard that one before. Why? What's the story of this company? They have good business, good balance sheet, they're fine. That's why I own it.
Yeah.
If you can't do that, you should buy a fund.
I hate to do a shameless plug here, but that's literally what flankinvesting.com is here for. So let's do a little bit of a mid-roll ad, because if you're not familiar with our site, it's Reddit for intelligent investing. You'll see a lot of analysis that people are writing where we're studying businesses. And when we get to our final thesis, like you can find mine on Robinhood, Flank is literally the place where we study businesses. We give you exactly the right workflow. And this is a Peter Lynch style framework. And we take exactly what steps that we should be studying, and then you turn that into posts, and then you at the end of that you write your thesis, and you say you can exactly explain why you are buying that stock.
Yeah, I think this is great. And the research I've done has been amazing. I've researched a few companies on Flank now, and it's amazing what you can learn just by doing even a small amount of research.
It's incredible. And in some of our videos where we've talked, like where we've just done hot takes, you can see how quickly you can learn. We know you've only been investing for a couple months now, like in a serious way, and you already know more than 95% of the other investors I've ever met, because I talk to hundreds of individual investors, people like us. And it's amazing how quickly you can go from not knowing anything about the underlying business to being able to evaluate a business.
Yeah.
It's
Thanks, David.
cool.
The compliments are what keep me coming back.
Hey-o. Okay, let's play another clip. Some people may have been confused when I said I don't like to buy stocks, I like to buy businesses. And Peter Lynch explains it perfectly in this clip.
You said behind every stock is a company, find out what it's doing. Some of the great stories about your big investment success involve hands-on observations that you had been able to make living your real life, being in a supermarket, being in a shopping mall, looking at what people are doing.
And then he goes into a story about when he was running the Magellan Fund, that his wife started buying pantyhose that started getting sold at the supermarket. And he was like, oh, wow, this is great. You know, people go to the supermarket every week.
Right.
They can buy their pantyhose here. And then a competitor came up, and he went to like 3 department stores and bought 65 pairs of pantyhose from this competitor because he was evaluating the first one. And he let he gave it to all the women in his office, and they were like, it's all crap. And off of that decision, basically being like the possible competitor is crap, he went, all right, and he put in millions of dollars into that first pantyhose company.
Wow.
So it's literally that's one of the key things about Flank too, is that's what we believe as flankers. If you observe the world around you, you can make you have a very strong edge, because you have your own unique part in this world, where you have your own experiences, your own passions, and your own insights that no one else has. And if you use those to your strength, you flank the market.
And people think that looking for investments is like sitting down at a computer and looking at all these tickers and stuff. No, it's your everyday life.
Yeah.
Like,
we made a video on going to Dave & Buster's.
Right, we did. Yeah.
And we looked at the company.
So many of the things you interact with on a daily basis are publicly traded companies. The car you drive, the cereal you eat. Yeah. I mean, it's everywhere. And it's so much better to look at some of those things as something you could potentially own, as opposed to some company you've never heard of that happens to have some promotion on a website.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. Okay, so those first couple of clips kind of explained what Peter Lynch's like investment philosophy is. What would you guess the very first stock he bought when he started the Magellan Fund, which, again, went from 18 million to 14 billion in 13 years? So what do you think that first stock was? Something crazy like, some GP like Intel or something, like some crazy high growth company?
I know this is wrong, but I'm going to say yes. That's exactly what it was.
No, it was Taco Bell.
Ah, damn.
Here it is. Here's the clip.
The first stock I bought in Magellan was Taco Bell. And I had to say I own this myself. Is it okay?
Who was clapping for Taco Bell? It's not one of my people, was it? Okay.
And so I said, can I buy some stock that I own myself? I said, sure.
And then he goes into a story about how he called his broker and they didn't know what a taco was because this is like in the late 70s and Taco Bell was in Southern California.
Yeah.
So they were like, what's a taco?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, forget petaflops on circuit boards. I want to buy a taco company.
Right.
And that's exactly what Peter Lynch, that's how we should be investing.
Right.
Simple businesses are awesome because we can understand them. And then if you see everyone around you being like, yo, this Taco Bell thing is awesome.
Right.
And then you go, all right, I'm going to evaluate the company. You do a little bit of homework and then you can make a lot of money doing this.
This reminds me of the guy who owns the Jacksonville Jaguars. His last name is Khan. He bought a small parts manufacturer in Urbana, Illinois, I believe, and grew it from a tiny business into a multi-billion-dollar company, and now owns a football team.
Yeah.
So it's incredible how boring businesses can just scale, right? With the right person in charge and the right kind of mix of things, a boring small business can go from something tiny to something huge.
Boring businesses are great.
Yeah,
and you
right.
can find bargains all over.
Right.
Okay, so this last clip's going to talk about how many companies does he evaluate and why does he evaluate so many?
The person that wins the most, turns out the most rocks, wins the game. And I said, Joel Tillinghast is a great geologist because if you look at 10 stocks, you probably find one that's mispriced.
Yeah.
Look at 20, you'll find two. Look at 40, you'll find four. And that's what we've been doing at Fidelity. We just don't look, we look at everything.
Again, that's exactly what I believe. Like if you look at a bunch of companies, you learn a lot about that industry and you learn a ton just by, I can't tell you how many just random things I know, not even random, things that I've used that I've applied in my own day job and in my own investing from studying business. So your knowledge compounds too.
Right.
But then, so it's just the act of just studying businesses just helps, which again, just to give another shameless plug to what we've created, we believe that we should turn over a lot of stones at Flank. And so we created this feature called Flux, and it's a daily upvote. I've already used mine, and I'm on a 16-day streak. So all you got to do is you give that one Flux to the best article you read that day. And I gave my Flux, because I like studying Robinhood, I gave my Flux today to Hank Hill, and he actually got a little bit of money for that. Each Flux is worth 50 cents.
Hell
so
yeah.
we're actually, helping the community. So you're getting paid. So if you wrote the article, you get paid to do research on Flank. And then if you're the person who's just giving your Flux, you should feel good about giving some Flux.
Yeah.
So just remember, Flank will make you a better investor. You just got to give a Flux. So Elliot, you went from not knowing who Peter Lynch is to seeing a couple clips from what do you think?
I think this was great. This interview is great. I'd actually love to watch the whole thing. And I'm also, as always, super impressed with your investing knowledge prowess. And it comes as no surprise to me that Flank uses the same principles as one of the best investors of all time. So way to go, David.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
But really, though, I mean, it all boils down to knowing what you're investing in, not being scared to take a bit of a risk, and also not jumping off when things maybe don't go the way that you thought they would.
If you know what you own, that's not a problem.
Right. Know what you own. And also turning over rocks, right? Doing discovery. You don't have to look at every business in the world, but look at a handful, right? It's not this huge thing you have to devote a whole bunch of time to. It's just little pieces of investigation and research and kind of just building that knowledge every day that makes you a better and better investor.
Yeah, I believe 5 minutes a day is all it takes.
Yeah.
If you take 5 minutes a day, you scroll and you give your Flux, and like that you will compound quickly. Now, some days you do want to do a little bit more work, but you do it when you're ready. And then you're like, you know what, I am going to study Kava, the restaurant company.
Yeah.
I'm going to study that today.
Yeah.
That's all for this one. Thanks so much for watching. We'll make sure that we link the full interview in case you want to check it out. And there'll also be a link to flankinvesting.com in the description below.
Thanks, everybody. And now we all know who Peter Lynch is.
Yo!